All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, Friday Morning Book Group. Today, we're going to discuss The Dutch House by Ann Patchett. And I welcome you all. I would like to start with just a little review of Ann Patchett, her life. Just a short review because there's lots to talk about with this book. And
Could I suggest that we all mute if we're
absolutely.
if we're not talking?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do request that. I thought everybody knew that, but thanks for reminding everyone. If everyone could just mute while I'm speaking, that would be terrific. And then after I give my spiel, as everyone here probably knows, because no one here, I don't think anyone is new, we do go around, everyone gets a turn to speak. You don't have to speak, but you're more than welcome to speak. And at that time, just raise your hand. I call on you, and then you unmute yourself. And we're most happy to hear your comments and your insights. So thank you. Okay, so Ann Patchett, a very, very wonderful, well-known, prolific author, probably best known for her book Bel Canto, which personally I loved. I've read just about every book she wrote. She's one of my favorite authors. She's down in Nashville, Tennessee. She's a Southern gal. She was actually born in California, but raised in Nashville, Tennessee. And her best-known novel, Bel Canto, is from 2001. It won the Penn Faulkner Award, and that's what brought her national fame. She comes from a literary family. Her mother is a published novelist. Her name is Jean Ray. She wrote the story of her own family, which is the basis for her 2016 novel called Commonwealth. And it's about the individual lives of a blended family spanning 5 decades. You might be interested in that book. She attended Sarah Lawrence College, and she published her very first story in the Paris Review while she was in college. So she was still quite a young person. She worked at 17 magazine for about 10 years, writing nonfiction. And she attended the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown. She attended several writing workshops. And then in 94, Bel Canto was published, and that's when she knew she was going to be a full-time writer. And she owns Parnassus Books with a co-owner, Karen Hayes, down in Nashville. She started it in 2010 because she found out that Nashville no longer had a good bookstore, and she wanted it to have one. So that's just a little bit about her life. And I did want to read, in relation to the Dutch House, I wanted to read just a little bit about what sparked her narrative for the Dutch House. And this is a quote I read from Ann Patchett. So she said, "The book really started with me thinking about a person who didn't want to be rich. There's so much celebration about money, and I thought, what if somebody just wanted to walk away from it all? I began thinking about the repercussions of one person's decision, how one person's decision really changes the path of so many lives. When Danny and Maeve lost the house, she couldn't get over it." I assume she means Maeve, couldn't get over it. And I think that's true for so many of us. Something has happened in our lives, and even if our lives go on to be quite wonderful, we hang on to that hurt. And I just thought about that for quite a while. And then likewise, another quote of hers that I thought was meaningful. She wrote, and this is about home, and I thought it was in relation to the book, certainly. She said, I've done a lot of travel writing, and people like to ask me where I would go if I could go any place. And my answer is always the same. I would go home. I am away more than I like, giving talks, selling books, and I never walk through my own front door without thinking, thank you, thank you, thank you. Home is the stable window that opens out into the imagination. And I thought, you know, I can see that in the Dutch house. Her descriptions, and the Dutch house was really, to me, almost the main character in the book, um, along with certainly all the others. But the book is such a character study anyway, but kind of the house is like the main character. At least it was kind of for me. And I felt like it was kind of a dark, to me, a kind of a dark fairy tale almost, with a grand opulent mansion being the main character. And there was a fierce loyalty between the brother and sister. There was a wicked stepmother in Andrea. There was the loss of the parents at an early age, the loss of a home, loss of an income. And then we have a lot of anger, we have resentment, jealousy, but we also have love. We have a lot of humor and kindness, and eventually we have forgiveness. So I just thought it was such a beautiful novel, and I hope that you guys would find it so. So I'll open it up now to comments and your thoughts. So just raise your hand and then unmute yourselves when you'd like to speak, and I'll call on you. So whoever would like to go first. Mary.
Hi. So I totally see your point about the house being the main character, and it is, but it means different things to the others in the book. So like Andrea is the stepmother, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for her, it's like this possession, something that she is obsessive about, that she needs to own. And for the father, it's like, for him, it's success, you know, that he worked really hard and made enough money, he was able to buy this. But for his wife, it was quite different. It was everything she didn't believe in, and she had to walk away from it and leave her family. And it's her children that sort of cling on to this house, especially the daughter Maeve, that she keeps going back to it and observing the house and watching it. It represents her past, her childhood, what could have been. It's a little bit of a, I see the fairy tale in it, but it goes beyond that. It's just a real, like, what is home to people, what it means to them. It's you know, on a certain level, it's a very powerful story. I read it a while ago, so I don't remember all the details, but it's so well told. Anne Patchett is she's such a gifted storyteller, that even the parts like, well, you know, really the father didn't leave a will, like, you know, why not? It's, you know, it goes way beyond that. You have to understand sort of the big picture of the story. And it's very well told. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Oh, Eve.
So I read it a while ago and I listened to it this time, and I love Tom Hanks, and I felt like he was visiting me every morning when I listened to it. But reading it now, you know, and this is the second time, and right now I'm in the process of clearing out my parents' house and selling it. And I just, the whole idea of the home and what it means to me, and just going through everything, and it just really, you know, struck me so deeply this time reading it. And, you know, thinking about in the future, you know, will I drive past that house and say, you know, oh, I used to live there, and who's living there now, and what's going on? It just, You know, it was just a very emotional experience, and I love her writing, and I loved that piece in Harper's Magazine or
Oh,
Atlanta.
good.
I almost like that better than the book because I had read the book already, but
Yeah.
she is just such a great writer. I love her stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have to thank you, Eve. I have to thank Mary. I had been given that piece quite a while back. My son sent it to me. I think he knew that I liked Ann Patchett. I can't remember. And then I lost it. And then I wanted to find it again because I wanted to send it to everyone. And it was just on my mind to go look for it. And it was in my inbox, and Mary had sent it to me. And it's like she knew that I was looking for it. And I was so appreciative of her sending it. And then, of course, I sent it out to all of you. And I just read through it very slowly again. And I just was bowled over by that piece. And I think, Tom, you were the one who said, it's like reading two books. You read the book and then you read the piece. And I'm not going to ask you, Tom, if you read the whole book. It doesn't matter. But the piece was like reading a book, because the visualizations I had from the piece were just, I mean, I could just go on and on. I could just go on and on. But anyway, thank you, Eve. I don't mean to belabor it. Tom.
I like the piece much more than the book, because I always love looking into the hood and seeing how things get done. And for her to describe how she moves around in time, for instance, that's really cool.
I'm sorry, to describe what?
How she moves around in time. You know, sometimes, you know, they have to know how to narrate moving around, you know, plus or minus this story. So the book was, yeah, she's a great writer. It didn't move me very much, but I love the article.
Good. Sometime, Tom, you'll have to tell me what your top 5 favorite books are in the world.
Well, we were on a good winning streak there. I think there was 2 or 3 in a row that I really liked. So.
Oh, great. I know you like Birdsong, which is
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who else? Anne.
Listening to it, the metaphors were unbelievable. And when I read it, I guess I read books too fast, maybe. But with him narrating it, just the metaphors were just wonderful. Yeah. And it's funny, you don't pay that much attention, but it did, listening to it, that did jump around. You had to be really aware of when he was narrating what part he was talking about, because it did skip a lot.
Right.
But I just loved him, not just Tom Hanks, but the character.
I know.
Was unbelievable. And the way he felt about his mother, I had trouble understanding why he was so angry with her. But is that a man's thing, maybe? I don't know. He didn't know her, so how could he be so judgmental?
Well, what do people have a thought about that? We can open it up. Why do you think Maeve was so much more accepting of Elna when she came back and Danny was not? Anybody have thoughts about that? Judy.
That's something that I thought about also. And I think what he was angry about is that she denied him of growing up with a mother. And he just really had a hard time getting past that. I mean, a good part of this book to me was about a dysfunctional family. Because I had a real hard time understanding how the mother could abandon her children. I understand not wanting to live a life of riches, but to me, being a mother trumps that. And that was a very hard thing for me to say, okay, it's a made up story, but still, I just had a hard time with that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But something else I was going to say is, this is a book that I don't know that I ever would have come across to read. And one of the things that I, really enjoy about this group, and one of the reasons that I do it, is because you introduced me to books that I probably wouldn't have otherwise have read. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
I appreciate that, and I do hear that from others. So good. I'm very glad about that. Thank you. It's great. I think I won't speak anymore. First, we'll go around and then I'll ask some questions. Pam.
I really love this book too, and to echo, am I cutting out because I get a message that says this is
No.
unstable? Okay,
No,
if I
you're
cut
good.
out, just go on.
You're good.
I totally agree with Judy. I mean, about half the books you have, I've read, and the other half I never would read for various reasons. So, and I really always appreciate them. This one I didn't read when it first came out, because I really don't care for family sagas, for books that don't teach me something in some way. And when I read this, it was like, well, right now it's up there in a top level of favorite books. So I really appreciate that. The storytelling, everything. But I felt not only was it a great story, but I had a couple of connections to it. I think there is a whole theme of Catholic guilt, and I went to a Catholic girls' school through 9th grade. It was a big part of my childhood. There is just a sort of vein of Catholics that give up everything. And I saw Elna, the mother, as like that their life's work was to give and to help. And here we see the conflict. Well, she wasn't conflicted, but the devastation on the family, and particularly Danny, and it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, Danny was in medical school at the same exact time my husband was, and it was so true what he said about lots of men going to medical school at that time because their parents expected them to. And then they did something completely different after. There is someone we know who was in Craig's training, who went through his training with him here, and then immediately went into politics when he finished it, like 14 years of training. He actually ran for governor a few years ago. But, and then I had a college roommate who was in Columbia Medical School at that time, one of the few women, and she really wanted to be there. So that whole piece really resonated with me.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you. All right. Who else would like to speak? Who hasn't spoken? Lou Ann? You have to unmute, Lou
I
Ann.
do. Okay. I'll be very fast. I loved it. I read it when it first came out and loved it then.
Good.
And I can't wait to listen to it now.
Oh, great.
So anyhow, I love everything about the book. I love all of the
excellent.
books. I never let them sit on the shelf for a day before I can check them out. So anyhow, but it was great and I can't wait to hear it.
Excellent.
That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
And Anne, I'm going to call you later.
And I think I saw Richard. Did you want to speak, Richard? Oh, you have to unmute. Richard, you have to unmute. I don't think he hears me. No. All right.
I somehow got a stupid call and it kicked me out.
Oh, okay. There you go. There you are. Did you want to talk?
Yes, can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can't see anyone. That's okay.
Yeah.
I liked the book a lot. I had listened to Tom Hanks when the book came out. I listened to about half of it again. I'm a big Ann Patchett fan. I've read some of her other books, Taft, State of Wonder, and this book. I did not like Run, and I tried getting into Commonwealth. I couldn't get into that. I've seen her in person when she came out with State of Wonder. She's excellent in person. I like this book a lot. Certainly the house is the big picture of the book. I don't know how people feel. I like the book, the bond between Maeve and Danny. I don't know how people felt at the end. I don't know if it was just seemed hard to believe that Amanda, who was so detestable, and Alma had such a relationship at the end where Alma was assisting Amanda. I don't know. That part seemed a little hard for me to believe, but based on what happened in the book. Now, because I listened to it again, I forgot how Elma appeared in the book. Was that because Maeve had the heart attack, or was it sooner than that?
It was sooner.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did it happen? Did she?
That she appeared. Trying to remember.
He saw her in the hospital. She
Oh,
brought
oh.
some.
It
She
wasn't.
brought some people.
It was the heart attack then. It
Yeah,
was the heart attack. Okay.
but also the what's her name? The one that was the babysitter. She
Oh.
had seen her, and she told Danny when they were having coffee.
Yeah.
She told Danny that she was there, and he
You mean Fluffy?
he didn't want to see her.
Was
Yeah.
that Fluffy? Was that Fluffy, the babysitter?
Yes, Fluffy. Fluffy is the one that broke the news to him that she was
Right.
there,
Right.
and they had been in contact.
Yeah.
It was kind of
I-
interesting seeing people reappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. The housekeeper and the cook, and they all stayed in touch, and even talked to her. But I think that if the father had not, I think she could have gone into Philadelphia, dealt with the people while the kids were in school, come home. But he was totally against it. He said, "Don't do that. Leave." So I think he pushed her out. I think she would have been happy to be with the kids at night and be in Philadelphia during the day, but he wouldn't have any part of it.
What did he see in Amanda? I mean,
Andrea.
And
Andrea. I'm sorry, Andrea.
she hooked him.
Well, I think what a big part of it was she loved the house.
Yeah.
It was the house she loved. I don't know if she loved him,
Right.
but she
Right.
loved the house.
Yeah, that was
I
different.
agree.
Different than Alma. Yeah, that's true.
He was thrilled about that. Somebody loved his house and everything in it.
Boy, did she love that house.
Oh, yeah. But you couldn't have found a more horrible stepmother. I mean, she was just so horrible.
He felt bad for her kids, her daughters. It felt terrible for them.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is that nothing in that house ever changed.
No,
All the furniture was there, the pictures.
everything.
It was so impersonal. No wonder that Alma didn't like it. There was nothing of her there.
Everything. And then the ultimate abuse
The portrait.
to kick Maeve out of her room,
Yeah,
and then she never came back.
right.
You
And
know,
then not to take the portrait.
I think the father was really the enabler of all this stuff happening. He stopped the
Absolutely.
mother from doing what she really wanted to
agree.
do. When he brings
Absolutely.
Andrea in, he lets her kick Maeve out of her room, and then
Oh, yeah.
he lets her kick his two children out of the house. I mean,
Absolutely.
come on.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And they could take nothing with them.
Right.
right.
No will. Nothing left for the kids.
It was really an odd guy, I thought, but we should just let everybody who hasn't spoken speak. So let's see. Would anyone like to speak who hasn't spoken yet before we, yeah, Irene. Thank you.
I found this a difficult book to get into. And, I was particularly angry when the father told the kids that the mother had gone to India, because I thought of this, that the mother had actually had cancer and had died, and he couldn't deal with that, so he made up this wild story that she had gone to India. Then I was very surprised to find she did go to India. So it was, it took me a while to get into it. And it was, and I sometimes felt as though the writer was doing an exercise into saying, what's the most unbelievable thing I can have a character do and somehow convince the readers that it actually happened. And this is what I thought her premise was of the book for quite some time. And I thought she was very successful at doing that. But, it took me a while for the book to grow on me. And then, by the end, I liked it a lot.
Okay. Did you read the Harper's piece that I sent out? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That was an incredible piece.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you, Irene. And then we haven't heard from, I don't know if you'd like to speak, Margaret or Allison? No. Okay, no problem. I'd just like to throw out a couple of ideas, questions, thoughts. One is, why are men who leave their families judged less harshly than women? So Elena left her family, and of course, that was like the worst thing you could do in your life. But of course, if it was a man, they're usually not judged as harshly. Because obviously they're not the nurturer, usually, especially back in those days. We're talking about I think it was like 1950s maybe. Yeah, 1950s, yeah. Especially then. And maybe today be a little bit different, but I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I was also thinking a lot about Maeve. She was, I really liked her character. I liked her a lot. I wanted to meet her in person. She had a lot of strengths, but, she was stuck, I felt like. So she stayed at the frozen vegetable job, like her whole life. And such a smart girl, so creative, really, and talented. But why did she stay with frozen vegetables? I just couldn't figure that one out. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, she was obsessed with Danny, spending as much money of the education possible.
Yeah.
He never would have gone to medical school if it hadn't been,
No.
Get rid of the money so that the girls won't have any money.
Right.
Although one did become a doctor. So there must have been
some money. Yeah.
I think she very, very much was in love with her boss, and he with her. Well, definitely he was in love with her.
With her, yeah, that's true.
Her whole mission was have Danny spend the money, whether he liked it or not. And then the Celeste. I mean, I didn't like her. His wife, what was her name? Wasn't Celeste?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that was another interesting part. How at first Celeste and Maeve was the one who tried to set Danny up with Celeste. Yeah. And then as time went by, they went further and further apart until they hated each other. And then Celeste, to her credit, at the theater when Maeve was having the diabetic attack, Celeste was the one who got things in the right place and got her the help she needed. Celeste was right there on the Johnny on the spot. It was, I didn't dislike Celeste so much, but I questioned Maeve, like no relationships with people. I don't know. She seemed to have a lot of friends, but no single relationship with a woman or a man. And I don't know, it was just a little strange. Pam.
Yeah, I listened to that audio, the podcast. I don't know if anyone else did that.
Oh, I did not.
It was really good.
Oh.
And so it was Ann Patchett talking with Gretchen Rubin. And
Oh, okay.
she
What?
talked about how Maeve, first of all, everybody agreed that Maeve and the boss were having an affair all this
Okay.
time, including Ann Patchett. And she also said that that Maeve was devastated by the mother's loss, leaving them, but and so it just changed her life. From she was just stuck there until the mother came back, and it just changed Maeve completely.
Completely, yeah.
The other thing I want to mention that they really discussed in that podcast was Ann Patchett said she wanted to write about someone who had a major issue, in this case diabetes, that is not what the story is about. And I thought that was really interesting. So, that's sort of this side thing. And
Yeah,
I think it was what Maeve died of, but she had all these crises. So they talked a lot about that, which was
interesting.
pretty
Well, thank
interesting.
you. Thank you for
How do you
reminding
find
me.
that?
Yeah, I will send that out to everyone.
Oh, good.
Pam very graciously sent me the link to a podcast. And did I not forward that to everybody? I guess I didn't. I will forward that to everybody. Pam, you sent that to me.
No, Vadna. Who's
Oh,
not here.
Vadna sent it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think you sent it out. I don't know how I would have gotten it, but.
Oh, okay. Then I did send it out. Okay.
Just in the last couple of days.
Okay. Then, yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but I would like to. Yeah. So,
I don't think I got the podcast link.
Okay,
so.
I'll send it again.
Yeah.
I'll send it again. Yeah.
I don't remember getting it either, but then again, I get so much email.
Okay, I'll send it again. It's always nice to, I find it's always nice after you read the book to listen to these things or read the Harper's article and then, and then go back and look at parts of the book. And at least I do. Usually I put in 1 million sticky notes. This book, I didn't because I listened to it. But there were so many parts in the audio where I wanted to put a sticky note. Of course I couldn't, but there were so many parts I laughed out loud and I was close to tears. I mean, I felt so many emotions with this book. I just love her writing. I don't know what else to say. Let's see, how are we doing? 10:41. Well, we're good. And the other thing I wanted to relationship. Yeah, I noted that Celeste and Maeve, their relationship just started out very well, and then it just became so acrimonious over time. And I think it was all about jealousy. I mean,
yeah, I think you're right.
Celeste was, and Janie's relationship with Maeve was such that I think any wife would be jealous, honestly. I mean, he ran to Maeve for everything. And Maeve, let's face it, Maeve was his mother. Maeve was his mother, his substitute mother that he never had. And anyone, can see that.
One thing I liked is when Danny was telling about when he would go out with his father to collect the rents. And, they went to, really families who had a lot of difficulties, and how he saw his father was so generous with these people and not, collecting the rent. I thought, this was the parental relationship that he had. And maybe that's why he was so, mad with his mother, is that, he had this with his father, and then his father died, and then his mother comes back, and it's like, well, where were you?
Where were you? That's right. That's right.
But I really, I just felt that emotion between Danny and his father when they first went out.
Yeah.
To collect the rents. I found that very, very, heartwarming kind of
It was
thing.
very touching.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of parents, maybe especially back then when it wasn't fashionable to show, certainly my parents didn't show emotion back then. It wasn't like that. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't come crying home. Take care of yourself. That's how it was. And I think Danny's father, that was the way he showed what was inside of him. This is how you are a good person. You treat other people. This is how you treat other people. This is the right way to treat people, and Danny really took a lot from that, and it made quite an impression on him. This is really who his father is. He's a good person,
Right. Even though he's going up and buying all these properties and things
Yeah.
like that, he
Yeah.
still,
He's
has
still,
some feeling for the people who live there.
yeah, he cares about people.
Yeah.
And Danny really remembered that and took it to heart. Anne.
But it was interesting that Alma went with him in the beginning, and she kept giving people food and things. And he said, "You can't do that."
Can't do
That was the beginning of her. Well, not the beginning, but her continuation of reaching out
That's
to
right.
people in need.
And then he
And-
told her, "Don't come anymore."
That's right. Don't come anymore. So,
Right.
even though, she really did love him, she says,
She said.
but she couldn't deal. And, I can understand a little bit. Growing up, I lived in a neighborhood of non-college graduates, and my father was a general practitioner. And I remember everybody saying to me, "Oh, you're rich. Your father's a doctor." And it devastated me. So I can understand where she was very uncomfortable in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So, sorry. I can understand that. And I was never attached to a house either.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, your background informs you a lot.
Yeah.
You think about
When
it.
I was in high school, we did move over into a higher income neighborhood. But by that time I was 15 and I didn't care.
Yeah. When you're 15, everything changes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was mad that we moved.
Yeah, of course. Right. Well, so interesting. Tom.
For the men's point of view,
Yeah.
this is the way that men communicate love. Is, I'm a little sad to say it, but it is the way that it works. And, it's very hard for us to speak emotionally, but we share those kinds of things, that experience with our kids, and that's how they get their values.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying that and sharing it. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
It means a lot. It's special. Judy.
I just want to make one other comment about Maeve. I think the fact that she worked in frozen foods was sort of a reflection that she was frozen. No, I'm serious. It was very symbolic
I'm
of the
sorry.
great person that she was.
Do you think Anne Patchett made that was a metaphor?
It could have been. I don't know.
Very interesting. Very interesting. She's the kind of author, especially after reading the Harper's piece, where I just wish, I wish I could just meet her, go either interview her, go out for coffee with her, just so many things about her. I just wish I could talk to her. I don't know. I feel this kind of connection. I don't know why. I don't know. It's underneath Southern thing that me from Brooklyn,
I would like to know what happened to that woman. Is she still alive?
Well, that's a good question. I told my husband about the piece, the Harper's piece, and that's the first question he asked me. And I said, my assumption is that she died. She went home to die, but we don't know. Right?
I have to look her up. She's a real person, right?
She's a real person. She's Tom Hanks' assistant, but we
Yeah.
don't know. Pam, did you want to speak?
Oh, I was actually following up on what Tom said. There is a book, a very popular book called The 5 Love Languages, which I know about because when my son last year was getting married, the pastor who mentored them or whatever it is, had them read it. And it was very eye-opening about how people express love and their, I think my son got a lot out of it. I did not read it, but there's, expressing emotion is a way that it's one of the 5, but there are 4 others.
Oh, that's great. I heard of that book and I made a note. I'd like to look at it. Thank you.
What's
And
it
the
called?
other,
Go
the
ahead.
5 love languages. The other thing I want to mention is if you want to consider reading Ann Patchett's book, Stories of a Happy Marriage or something, it's essays. I haven't read it, but I think that would be fun.
Oh, great. Stories of a Happy. I haven't read that one. I thought I'd read them all. Stories of a Happy Marriage.
It's nonfiction, it's essays.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, it is 10 of 11 and I just want to make a few announcements and then I have to get to this webinar. So I'm sorry, I do need to close. But a couple of announcements. So, but thank you so much. I think it's been a great discussion. I think we've covered not everything, but a lot. So for next month, we're going to read and discuss An Officer and a Spy by Robert Harris. And it's Robert Harris, in case you aren't familiar with him, he's quite a prolific historical fiction writer. He wrote Pompeii, Imperium, the Imperium trilogy. Then his new book is V2, about World War II. I don't know if anybody's read that, but this book is about the Alfred Dreyfus affair in the very late 19th century into the beginning of the 20th century. And it reads like a thriller, but it's actually based on fact. It's based on fact. And it's a very good read. It's not a short book, I'll tell you right now, but it really goes fast. So I'm about halfway done now. I think you'll enjoy it. And I have copies behind the desk. Now we do close on April 23rd, is our last day. We're closed for 3 days, the weekend, 24, 25, and then the Monday we're closed. Then we open on the Tuesday. The branches will open on that Tuesday, the 27th. And then we're gonna open a 3rd main location. Unfortunately, we don't have that set in stone yet, but it is going to be downtown Wellesley, and it's going to be a big location. It's going to be a main library for 4 or 5 months. And you'll be able to do everything you do now. You can order books, you can pick up books, and you can come in just like you do now. And you can also go to the branches. And we'll have all our new materials at the new main library downtown. So the copies of An Officer and a Spy, right now I have them above the reference desk here at this library. And when we move to the new main, I will transfer them over there. So you'll be able to get them over there. I just can't tell you where that is because unfortunately I don't know.
Have you thought about Isabel Wilkerson's book of the migration?
Yes, and that is on my list. Unfortunately, it has umpteen holds on it, and I can't get the copies. It's on my list to do.
I read the cast.
I would love to do The Warmth of Other Suns because that's the first book, but I just can't do it until I can get the copies.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And then what else? I think, do you have any other questions about the closing and the move and everything like that? Everybody
The
good?
last date again, please.
April 23rd, the last
23rd.
day
Okay.
for this library until the fall.
Okay.
So you're gonna open up like a storefront or something like that?
We're gonna open up, you probably have noticed that there are stores downtown Wellesley, like on Central Street, I think it is, that are vacant now. And there's one in particular, I know that's a very big space. And it's empty. something like that. So it's
Oh.
empty. So we're going to make that into our main library for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Like,
And there's going to be parking. I don't know. They're going to arrange some parking.
So it'll be library and ice cream. That's good.
There you go. And Starbucks right there too. Yeah. So,
Not
yeah. Irene.
I had a question. I thought we were reading a bookstore in Berlin in May.
Yes. And I was going to do a bookstore in Berlin, and that is going to be done probably in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I confused you.
Okay, I started reading it. It's good.
Oh, good, 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 good. It's a new book, and I have to be able to get enough copies. So I think it'll be in the fall. It is a very good book. It's a primary source. She wrote, Francoise Frankel wrote that book in 1943, 44, 45, when she was, she wrote it back then. So it's a memoir, firsthand account, trying to survive under Hitler. And it's a very good book, and I'm hoping to do it in the fall. So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So I hope everybody enjoys the snow.
It's still snowing.
Yeah. Be careful out there, and
Thank you, Deb.
have fun. And I will hope to see you at the new library, at the branches. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, you can email me. It'll be hard to call me, so probably don't call, but you can always email me. You can use the chat on the library website. We answer all the chat questions, or drop in. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So good to
Thank
see
you.
you all. Everybody stay well.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
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 Bye.